Ciao everyone, this is Food is a Conversation Alumni Edition. Today is session 23. I am so happy to actually be able to introduce you so many interesting people and stories and how they connect to the ecosystem of the Future Food Institute and the network. Today, my guest is actually based in Italy, and I haven't had the chance to meet her in person yet, but preparing for this conversation, I know that she will have a lot to explain to you. So what about these events? These conversations are hosted to introduce ecosystem members who programs that the Institute organizes. This could be the Food Innovation Master Program, or any of the many summer schools what we organize, and also the boot camps what we are actually kicking off next week, especially the very first digital version of it. So while I'm waiting for, ciao Elena.
Ciao.
Ciao. Perfect. So we have you connected. I just quickly finish the intro and then we can get into the conversation. So these conversations are hosted twice a week, once on Tuesday and once on Thursday. We try to keep it available in different times so we can cover all time zones, even ahead or behind GMT, because as you can imagine, the network is very broad and Alumni is located all over the world. These are very casual conversations. You will get to know their stories, how they connect to the Institute, and what has happened with them since they graduated from the program, what they attended. I encourage everyone, please, to post questions in the chat. I will make sure that we will answer them. And I think I kind of explained everything now. So without any further ado, Elena, if you could introduce yourself and tell where you are based, please.
Yeah, of course. So hi, I'm Elena, and I am American from California, but I'm living in Florence, Italy, and I have been based in Italy for the most part over the last 5 years or so, since I first came over to work at the Milan Expo in 2015. But now I'm here in Florence. I work remotely here as a journalist, writing about food, farming, and sustainability, and also as a managing communications for an agritourism that's about 2 hours south of here, still in Tuscany.
Nice. So tell me, what was the connection? How did you end up attending the Storytelling and Advocacy Summer School in 2017, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, in 2017. So I was working previously for the Lexicon of Sustainability, which is an organization based out of California. I was already working for them remotely in Tuscany on the farm that I work for still. But I was working with Lexicon of Sustainability, and they were doing this partnership with the Future Food Institute. And of course, the second, I realized what the sort of event was going to be like, the project, I wanted to participate. And I was really looking forward to the opportunity to sort of head north and meet these other people that shared my passions for food and sustainability. So that was, the fall of 2017, and it was just an incredible experience.
Can you please tell us a bit about the boot camp, or not boot camp, sorry, summer school?
Yeah. So, it was a tight-knit group of us that came together in Reggio Emilia first and then headed north to Bergamo afterwards. And so it was storytelling for advocacy, specifically advocating for a better food system. So we were working together to create what were called information artworks, which are essentially like these images that tell a story, and in this case, explaining terms that are related to sustainability and food systems. And so I, for example, was working on 2 images. One was talking about heritage breed cattle, which we raise on our farm. And then the other one was about the transition to organic in agriculture. And so everyone sort of had their own little topics that are close to their heart, but sort of connected to this general theme. And we worked on those for about 2 weeks or more, and then headed up to Bergamo, where those images then became huge life-size prints that were at this international conference at the G7 summit up there. And I mean, it was just an incredible experience. It was a whirlwind. It was a lot of work. It was long nights, but we ate so well, of course, because we're also into food. And I mean, had incredible conversations and really bonded. It was a wonderful experience.
Super nice. Are these images actually to be found in Scuderia at the moment?
That's a good question. I haven't seen them since the event.
Huh, okay, because I remember when in 2018, when we arrived to do a master program. So, are there any digital copies of these images? If someone would want to look them up, can they find it somewhere?
Yeah, there's still a website from the Lexicon Lab from that summer, and so some of them are online. There's definitely a variety of places you can find them. I mean, I've even seen some of the artworks. I saw one of them I was just visiting someone that I participated in the program with, and he actually has one of them printed.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
but yeah,
Okay.
no.
Great. So, everyone, Lexicon of Food, Lexicon of Sustainability, look
Yes.
it up online and you will find all the images from 2017. I don't want to say anything wrong, but I think you had one image also about eggs and what's the difference between free range and all the different terms. So that was something very interesting for me, and I even like shared it with other people because I think, especially consumers, you have so many terminology but you don't even understand, and then how are you supposed to make a conscious or the right decision when you are shopping? Um, so you mentioned you came to Italy for the Expo, and most of your work is around communication. Could you please tell me what is the importance of communication in sustainability, and how would you describe?
Yeah, I mean, I think communication in terms of sustainability and food is of the utmost importance because when people have more knowledge about the food they're eating, they care more and they understand more what their role is in the food system. So I think that, when you're trying to communicate about sustainable food systems, it gives people an idea of how their individual choices not only impact their own bodies, but their communities and the whole planet at large. So I think the more people can understand about what they're eating, the more engaged they are, and they can make better choices about everything related to their dietary habits.
So how was your Expo experience? Unfortunately, I missed it myself, but I remember when we before we started the global mission, Sarah explained to us, because we were the third year of the Food Innovation Master Program, that the second and the third year we were traveling around the world to research certain topics, while the first year didn't really need to travel too much because the world was coming to Italy in form of Expo. So how was that experience for you?
Oh, it was incredible. It was one of like the. I feel like if you divided your life into chapters, that would be one of my favorite chapters of my life so far. It was a lot of fun, and I learned so much, and I met so many incredible people. I mean, I was working sort of as a cultural ambassador in the American Pavilion. And so it's like, we have this building in the middle of all these other countries' buildings. And every single day, I would meet literally thousands of people from even 100 countries in a single day, and you'd have conversations, from really short passing conversations to really in-depth, like sometimes 2-hour conversations when you really connect with a person just talking about food. And I mean, I could talk about food all day. So it was great because we had this opportunity sort of to explain our different food cultures, which I think was really important and beautiful to do, especially as an American. A lot of people came into our pavilion expecting the American food culture to be certain fast food chains, and they had a very, specific idea of what it is. But we also talked about, like we had an exhibit about Thanksgiving, and the American food culture has other sort of touch points that have personal connections to them as well. And being able to talk to people from countries that I've never personally visited and have very little familiarity with their culture, it was incredible. And I mean, above all, too, the theme of the expo was food security. So specifically at the time, how are we going to feed 9 billion people by 2020? And that really, being in that place and being surrounded by so many people and seeing what every country is doing to sort of consider how they're going to confront that problem in their own countries, really got me interested in sort of the political side of food and the agricultural side as well. So it was an incredible, life-changing experience for sure.
Nice. And that was the point when you decided to stay in Italy at the end?
Yeah. I'd already been kind of, I wanted to be in Italy even before that, and I had come over the summer before in 2014 to work on a short film project about food in the Liguria region of Italy. So
Mhm.
I'd been here for a month before the last year and already knew I wanted to come. I wanted to spend more time here, and then Expo was my chance to spend. The first time was a month, then Expo was about 4 months, and I just wanted to spend longer and longer. And at Expo, I met my boss, who owns the farm that I work for currently,
Mhm.
and so I met her at the expo. I went back to the States, and then I came back, and I've been coming back and forth between the States and Italy for the last 5 years, working with her primarily. Although the international document situation is a little complicated, so I decided both to get my documents and then also for because I wanted to pursue higher education and improve my Italian to get my master's here. So I came back to Florence 2 years ago and moved here full
Okay.
time and have been here ever since.
Nice. So this farm, what you are mentioning, that's Tenuta San Carlo, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah.
So can you please tell us about the place and what they do, what practices they use, and what is your job for them?
Yeah, so it's a truly special place. I mean, it's like nothing I've ever seen in Italy or anywhere in the world. It's in southern Tuscany in a region known as Maremma, which is very different from the rest of Tuscany, where you sort of imagine like cypress trees on windy roads and vineyards and olive groves. It's a whole other landscape and a very diverse landscape as well. And so that sort of particular region is well adapted for growing rice. And so we are an entirely organic farm. Our primary crop is rice. We grow different varieties of Italian rice, primarily Carnaroli, which is the ideal rice for risotto, but also some other varieties as well. Actually, this year we're growing a lot of different varieties because we're experimenting with more sustainable methods for growing rice. Because as a lot of people who are in the food and farming world understand, rice is pretty intense in terms of resources because it uses a lot of water because rice grows in standing water. Which for that area, because the soil is very clay-like and the water sits on top of it well, it's the only sort of thing that will grow in that soil really successfully, compared with a lot of things like grapes or olives that wouldn't thrive there necessarily. But we are looking ways to reduce water consumption, and there's absolutely no toxic chemicals, no pesticides, herbicides. Everything has been thoroughly thought out, which I think is the really beautiful thing. I mean, there are crop rotations, so we don't grow rice consistently in the same field. We'll do legumes or other grains in those fields in the off seasons. And it's just really listening to the land, listening to nature's natural rhythms, and stewarding it with an eye to the future to, take care of the soil and the local environment, so that it can be healthy and produce food indefinitely.
I'm so happy to hear about these stories. And please tell me, how big is this farm? Oh wait, we have a question before I go on. How do you experiment? Do you collaborate with scientists or other farmers?
Yeah. And so we do collaborate with other farmers that are sort of pioneering methods that we would like to do because so we're one of Tuscany and generally central Italy doesn't grow as much rice as northern Italy, so they tend to have more um, varieties of farming methods. And so we're actually collaborating with a rice farmer in northern Italy who has kind of pioneered this method. We've got two rice experiments going on. So one of them is we call it like fermenting the rice field, and we're all really passionate about fermentation on the farm, so it's an extra fun thing. But it's a method that this person in the north is kind of working on that we're now trying to do on our farm. So it's a constant back and forth of, my boss will be calling her and saying, the rice is looking like this right now. Is that how it should be at this stage? And that one's really cool because we grew different crops in the field before that were then tilled under but left on the field, and then planted the rice directly on top of that, and then flooded it. So it's a way of naturally sort of fighting weeds. So the ultimate goal is that there are less weeds in the field without using any sort of chemicals to get rid of those weeds. So that's experimental. We hope it works, but we'll see. And that is a collaboration. And then the other field that we're working on actually has, I believe, 15 different rice varieties in it. And they have been planted with extreme precision. I got to be there when it was going on, and it was so cool, with this tiny little machine that puts them exactly where they need to be spread apart, along a drip irrigation system. And so we're going to see if instead of flooding the fields, there's a way to just do drip irrigation to reduce water use. And we're testing with those 15 different varieties to see which ones thrive in that sort of environment. And there are a whole team of scientists that are working in terms of getting, tracking the progress and seeing. We do a lot of collaborations with universities and things in the area to see.
So if someone would love to follow your experiment and the results, is there any way how they can keep an eye on the progress?
Yeah. So I work with the communications for the farm, and we have posted to our social media, so at Tenuta San Carlo. So you can find us on Instagram and Facebook, and we regularly, put little pictures and brief captions about how those things are progressing. And then Ariane, who's the one that owns the farm and is the head farmer, she writes blog posts that sort of update in a more in-depth way what's going on in the fields, and those come out once a month. We send them out in our newsletter, and then they're also posted onto our website, so people can read about it there.
All right, so to the audience, I will make sure when we post this conversation on IGTV, in the description, I will tag all of these accounts, but you can follow and keep an eye on the experiment. This sounds so interesting. And what my question was before, or what I wanted to ask, how big is this farm and what you can produce? Is that something what you sell mainly in the local community, or is that something what you also can market on a bigger scale?
Yeah, so the farm is actually, it's quite big. It's about like 600 hectares, but only a part of that, so maybe around half of it, is in agricultural production, and the other part is in conservation. So it's part of a regional park in the area, and it's left completely wild and natural, and it has a pine tree forest on it. So it's a very beautiful landscape, because on the one part you've got the pine tree forest, on the other part you've got these fields of rice and various other crops. But we do have we do produce quite a lot of rice, and we sell it almost entirely locally. During the pandemic, we've started doing home delivery, so direct orders online that can be sent anywhere in Europe. So if you're anywhere in Italy, all over Europe and through the UK, you can order this rice to come straight to your front door through Maremma a Domicilio, which is the website that we've constructed with a handful of other local farmers. So it's a really fun sort of project that came together in the last couple of months, where you can get organic rice from our farm and cheese from the buffalo farm down the field, and then beer from the brewery just down the road, and all in your box, and have the perfect sort of meal. So that's probably the easiest way for most people to get it, obviously, because it comes straight to their house. But other than that, we sell primarily in Tuscany, so in little stores around here, like Advocacy, which is sort of a natural foods grocery store that's in the area. And then also we collaborate with a lot of restaurants. So we sell the rice to the restaurant, and they use it to make risotto or other things that are available on their menu, primarily in Grosseto, but also in Florence and elsewhere.
Amazing. I will ask you to please send me the link of this platform where people can order, so I can also link that in the description later. And now, because we are slowly but surely approaching towards the end of our conversation, actually you just mentioned one of the changes what happened during the pandemic, but if you would look at your own consumption and procurement or your immediate surrounding, what do you see has changed over the past few months during the lockdown, or even now after, when everything slowly starts to get, well, not back to normal, or maybe not back to how it was, and I think it's good, but what changes do you see in the local food systems?
Yeah, I think that, speaking for myself and from the people that I know in this area, a lot of us are trying to eat more local and more at home. So we do, I really want to support local businesses, especially local farmers. So I'm finding ways to specifically buy from those people, not necessarily eating out, maybe getting things to go, or even from the grocery stores or markets, getting food that has just been grown in this area, specifically because I know how hard Italy has been hit by this, and I think in general, one thing that we're going to get coming out of this whole experience is that we need to decentralize and re-regionalize our diets, and so it's just for everyone involved, for the local economy, local producers, and also the local environment. It's really good for us to be eating what's in our area. So I'm definitely making more decisions to support people that are growing and making food nearby.
Nice. And the final question, what I always ask at the end of the conversations, it's kind of like keep track of all the utopistic futures what we see in front of us. So how would you describe your preferred food future? What would you like to happen in the next 1, 3, 5 years?
In my preferred food future, I absolutely would like for everyone to be growing their own food, at least a little bit. Even if it's just a basil plant in your window, I think the ideal for everyone to have enough land and enough time and know-how to be able to have their own garden where they can have, a couple different vegetables year-round. But even just having a single herb or something in your life that makes you feel connected to what you're eating, connected to the land, cognizant of how difficult it is to keep something alive and to produce food for yourself. It definitely makes you appreciate all that goes into it. So I think in an ideal food future, and I think it's happening a little bit more right now, we've seen people that are growing scallions or whatnot in their windows. I think it's good that we work towards being more connected to what we're eating.
Definitely. Yes, I would love that people reconnect to their food origin, or at least they understand what amount of work goes into the food before it lands on their plate. I think this disconnect have been tremendously growing, especially in urban environments. But I was even more surprised recently when I stayed in my hometown in Hungary for a while. It's a very small town, but it's very industrialized. So that the availability of food choices is so limited. It's worse than in a bigger city because there, slowly but surely, all these networks are growing who are trying to source the city with food which is grown around them. But here you don't have the connection with farmers anymore because there is barely any in the area and you only have the supermarkets and mainly discounters. So that's very sad. But again, if they could start growing on their balconies, and there you have a lot of houses with gardens, so not only grass can be grown in that garden, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. So Elena, thank you so much. It was a very inspiring conversation. I will try to make the description of this video as detailed as possible so people can start following all of the activities we talked about. And for the others, thank you for following. The next conversation is next Tuesday, 7:30 p.m. Central European Time. And then stay tuned because we will actually broadcast some of the sessions from the upcoming bootcamp live as well. Obviously, most of the content will be limited for the participants, but we decided that some of the conversations or digital convivium might be available and live streamed on our different channels. So, Elena, thank you so much again.
Thank you.
Have a lovely day.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.